Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, Queensland has now got the dubious title of being the state where more police shootings happen in this state than any other state, or actually, it seems like more than all other states combined. Our police shoot more of its citizens. This isn't a good it's not the kind of title that you want to have. So last Wednesday, we had a what the news described as a First Nations man. Just say it that way because I don't know. I haven't seen any pictures of him. I can't say that's been confirmed. I haven't confirmed it, but they're reporting a First Nations man critical condition after he was shot by police in Logan, which is south of Brisbane. The man who was 40 was shot by officers on Croydon Road, close to the town centre of Logan Central, about 1 p.m. The Queensland Police Service said in a statement that officers had been called to a disturbance. Police also claimed the man had threatened them before a firearm was discharged. Details released by the QPS have not been confirmed by independent sources or in any investigation. Sources say the man, 40, is Aboriginal. He is one of several Aboriginal men to be shot by police in Queensland in recent months, including the Mareeba man, Aubrey Donahue, and another man in the Brisbane southern suburb of Grange. The injured man was treated at the scene. Treated by ambulance officers. He's transported to Princess Alexandra Hospital. What I find a little interesting about this report is the police have just said that they'd been threatened, and then they pulled out their firearms. So generally, if if there's a knife, they always say, hey, perpetrators pulled out a knife. Obviously, if you pull out a knife, the protocol is if you come at police with a knife, they are going to pull a gun. They're going to pull a gun and they're going to shoot you. That's what is going to happen. You can pull a knife, you start walking towards them and threatening them, you're going to get shot here in the state. And, if you're threatening someone with a knife, well, that's on you. But it is interesting here that they're talking about how there's no mention of a knife. It's just saying that they were threatened, which does raise concerns, I think, about who are these officers that are just being threatened. You really want to know, what were they being threatened with? How were they being threatened? Who were these officers that they couldn't talk this person down? It's going to be interesting to see the bigger picture, see the whole story, see the report, and see exactly what happened, what kind of threats went on, and why they couldn't, why another use of force couldn't be used. And oh my goodness, please tell me there was more than just threats of violence and there wasn't a weapon. There needs to be a weapon. If there was not a weapon, well, the Lord help them, those police officers. But anyway, this is more, why I'm talking about this is, like I said, the more disturbing thing is the statistics now that Queensland, the state of Queensland, where I was born, where I live, shot more people in the last year than in the rest of Australia combined. The Queensland Police. I'll bring up this article. This article is a little older. I'd read it before, or I'd heard about it before, and I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's just a little concerning. I just thought, man, we need to talk about this. This needs to be discussed because this title used to belong to Victoria. And it's easy to justify things if you're going to look at things in just one at a time. But if you're going to look at things as a whole and say, hey, this isn't a good outlook, what are we doing wrong if as a whole, as an organization, we're going to the gun first? Have we lost the ability to communicate? And, what are these police that we're now employing? I've had long suspected that because we have lowered the standards for police that we are now accepting, for our recruits that we are now accepting, that we are putting ourselves in a bad position where police are, or they're undertrained, they're rushed out on the streets, they're not prepared, ill prepared, and we are. I thought this was going to happen for a long time, that we would end up with more police shootings, more violence, police that do not know how to handle themselves, and police that jump to the use of a fatal force rather than being able to go through all the different steps beforehand, just jump straight into using a weapon like the gun. So this article, data shows Queensland police shot more police last year than police in the rest of Australia combined. This was written in August. We've had several. We had that one just last Wednesday. So we've had other shootings since then. Queensland police, okay, 2022 to 2023, Queensland police shot 14 people. New South Wales police shot 8. One person was shot in Victoria. They used to shoot more than anyone. 1 in South Australia and 2 in Western Australia. Across Australia, around a third of the people shot by police survived. There you have, if you can see this in the diagram. So 14 in Queensland, 2, 1, 8, and 1. New South Wales was the second with 8. The Australian Institute of Criminology does not routinely provide the data broken down by state jurisdiction or for the most recent year. 730 used this is a 730 report, used a combination of sources to compile the data. So here, I'm not going to read all this, but this is talking about this chap who was killed, who was shot by police in New South Wales, in Airlie Beach, which is the area I live in, that Whitsunday area. So he was shot. He was here on holiday, I believe, from Western Australia. It talks about this, but more interestingly about this whole report is talking about in this subheading here, calls to examine underlying pattern. The Queensland Civil Liberties Council, QCLC, calling for a review into the underlying causes of the spate of police shootings. We're not attacking individual police, and we're not attacking the police as a whole. I would disagree, because I think the police as a whole is, I think their leadership have failed miserably, and the training they're sending police out there who are ill prepared. So I think you can lay the blame at their feet. Anyway, but it goes on. But any large organization that is armed and kills people, whether justified in certain cases or not, must bear scrutiny, says their Vice President, Terry O'Gorman. It is time that the Queensland Police Service opens up to the necessity to have the coroner and the Crime and Corruption Commission, the CCC, that's who I used to work for surveillance, look at this significant peak in shootings and say, what can we do? What are the facts? What are the problems? It is a path well worn in Victoria, a jurisdiction that has previously been the front runner in police shootings. For 40 years, Melbourne crime journalist at The Age, John Sylvester, has reported on police shootings reckoning with firearms, where there's been just one fatal shooting in the past 2 years. Back in the 80s, Victoria was shooting more citizens than the rest of the country combined, says Sylvester. And each case was looked at in isolation. So it was looked at legalistically. Police put themselves in a situation where they were confronted with an armed offender. And a good point here, because quite often, you see police do put themselves in the situation. Instead of extricating themselves, backing away, there's nothing to be frowned upon for backing up, for a subtle retreat. But no, that quite often they put themselves in a situation where they feel they cannot retreat, and it's a clash of wills, as you could say. Anyway, so they put themselves in a situation where they are confronted by an armed offender. They feared for their lives or the lives of others, and they took fatal action. And in each case, that was justified. But it's only when they were brought together that there was a realization that there was an issue. And this is what I'm saying. When you look at it, Queensland, we don't have the most citizens in the as a state. New South Wales and Victoria have far more citizens than we do, and yet we have more shootings. far more shootings than any other state. Our police shooting far more citizens. The number of shooting deaths was recognised as a threat to public confidence in the police. He's talking about Victoria. And Sylvester explains that in 1994, Victoria started Project Beacon, a landmark retraining program that focused on de-escalation of conflict and avoiding or minimising police use of force. And this is where I think Queensland police are going wrong. I think this is being shown because we've got, like I said, we've brought down our requirements for recruits. We're lowering the standards for requirements of recruits, and we're also not training them efficiently and sufficiently, and we're sending them out there ill-prepared. The safety of the police, the public, and the suspect was considered the number one priority, he said. The project was highly successful in the years that followed, but by the mid-2000s, the number of shootings again increased and training protocols were once again revisited. Police have to understand the consequences of pulling their firearm and firing a shot. It has to be last resort. Like I said, this is where I think the problem is. Police... It seems like police here in Queensland no longer or are not looking at things as the last resort. They're putting themselves in a situation where they don't want to back away. It's a clash of wills. Well, I'm not going to back down. You're coming at me. You're threatening me with violence. Instead of having a tactical retreat, they push back, and obviously he who's best armed wins. Continuing on. Monash University Emeritus Professor Jude McCulloch is an academic specialising in the militarisation of Australian policing. Although superficially, there are similarities between the police and the military, it's really important that they be kept separate, because the police shouldn't approach people as enemies to be overcome, which unfortunately you can see in a lot of police. When they talk to people, that is the way they're looking at people, as enemies to be overcome, instead of looking at them and treating them as fellow citizens and people that they need to live with. The Victorian coroner who investigated 11 of these fatal shootings said police had developed a culture of the gun, as he called it, where police officers expose themselves to dangers that they shouldn't have if they were using only proportionate and minimum force. They put themselves in the situation where using their firearm would be considered legal because it was a shoot or be shot situation. But it was against the ethics of police in that those shootings were not necessary, and they could have been avoided using less confrontational tactics. Around Australia last year, there were multiple incidences of police being killed and wounded whilst on duty. In December, 2 police officers were murdered at a remote property in Warrnambool. The 3 individuals responsible were later shot dead by police and are included in the statistics. In 2014, Sylvester made a 2-part documentary for the ABC called Trigger Point that examined the impact police shootings have on the officers themselves. That sort of Hollywood view of coppers who can shoot someone dead and then blow smoke out of the gun and holster it and holster it and go off and have a beer, it's just not true. When you take a life, the circumstances are catastrophic for the victim's family, for the police officers concerned, and there's a ripple effect that lasts a lifetime. Now, I just want to go back here. It says they put themselves in the situation where using their firearm would be considered legal because it was a shoot or be shot situation. Like I said, this is what I think is happening. Well, this is what I would not be surprised is happening in Queensland. Lack of training, lack of understanding, a lack of communication skills, police putting themselves in a situation where they are forced to draw their firearm, not understanding that they can take tactical retreats, not understanding how to communicate properly, offers who are not suitable, people being employed who are not really suitable for the role, but they're being employed because the Queensland government and the Queensland police service are so desperate because they've really screwed over all the good police that were out there and just attacked their own officers, that they're so desperate now that they just employ people who are not actually good candidates for the role. This is what happens when you have a police commissioner and leadership team that attack officers and seem to want to destroy and corrode the Queensland Police Service from within. First step that we could do, the Premier, if she was really actually the first step, I think, would be for Queensland citizens to vote Palaszczuk out. She needs to go. She's part of the problem. But realistically, if Palaszczuk was really concerned and if she was doing things properly, she would oust Katarina Carroll and make some serious changes within the leadership team in the Queensland Police Services. There are way too many problems, way too many citizens getting shot. It's concerning. Let me know what you think. That's just my opinion. Thank you for listening to The Slippery Slope. Before I go, I just wanted to say too, I keep getting all these comments about the music and stuff that I have before, and the lead-in music that I have with the program, with the especially on YouTube and that. So the songs that I play are my songs. Okay, if you like them, I appreciate it. You can listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all that stuff under Jay Fallon. If you don't like them, that's fine. You don't have to like them. The lead-in music is only 8 seconds. It's only 8 seconds. I just do it just to give a bit of a lead-in. Anyway, if you like it, listen to it. If you don't like it, that's fine. I appreciate it. You don't have to like my music. I just think it's funny when all these people seem to want to message me or write comments about the music. Anyway, in saying that, here's more music to take it out. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
You've been on my mind. Still see the way you move. Your body shimmers in that little black dress as you walk across the room. Now I've got nothing left to say.